Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It is Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan. And guess what? The Philadelphia Eagles schedule is out. It was announced on Wednesday night. But if you're like me or Adam, or you live on social media, you probably knew the Eagles schedule by about noon with all the leaks that came out. But you never can tell. You don't know if it's official. And now it's officially out. And there's a lot of things we're going to get into, Adam. But as we discussed really quickly before I hit record here, kind of surprising to see in total. There are a couple of trends and things we'll get into. Kind of surprising that the defending Super Bowl champs do not get back-to-back home games in any week of the season. It literally is home away, home away, home away for – oh, no, they have – I'm sorry. They have away twice in a row, two times schedule, but not home twice in a row.
I've never heard. In fact, just for any NFL team, put the Eagles to the side. I've not seen it. I mean, maybe there are teams that I haven't looked at every team, but that's odd to me to not have two home games in a row. Yet the first two out of the first three are at home, but not there's the one that sandwich we'll get to. Yeah, that is a bizarre one. That's what you call scheduling quirk. I look forward later today. Being on the media call, I might actually ask Mike North, who kind of oversees Howard Katz retired, who's the scheduling czar. Mike's kind of taken over for him, and he's got a lot of help. And they'll talk about the 30 computer models they have and all this stuff. I wonder if they have as many as these stations do for the weather. Do they have the European model?
Yeah, they got it's all the spaghetti, right? This way, that way, this way.
Yeah, it's wild, man. No, he said that's a big thing for them because the thing that as we get started here, what's very important, clubs have to turn in their conflicts. It could be is there what's going on around the stadium then? Because you and I have been there at the link when there's a lot of stuff going on. Mm-hmm. So they got to get the scheduling quirks out and so forth. But it as you know, everybody knew who was on their schedule, and who was home and away, but you just didn't know when they would be. We talked about the Dallas game earlier this week, which was interesting. I didn't think that would be happening. Week one, Dallas. You would think Washington, but I will tell you as we get started here, the way they put Washington in this schedule is really interesting. I again, not quite the way you would think they would do it.
No, definitely different. And in a way where it's either going to mean a whole lot or potentially not a whole lot. And that's sort of the roll of the dice you get with week 17 and week 18, depending on, clinching scenarios, tie-breaking scenarios, and all those things in the matter. Let me set the table here. Let us set the table and just give, for those who, maybe aren't living on Twitter or don't have everything right in front of them. The Eagles will play 3 preseason games: August 7th against Cincinnati at 7:30, and then the Cleveland Browns August 16th at 1:00 p.m. and an interesting afternoon matinee game, and then they'll finish with the Jets at 7:30. All those games are on NBC 10. So then their regular season starts, as everybody knows, that Thursday night opener, September 4th, home against the Dallas Cowboys. It is the first time, I believe, in 6 years that the Eagles will open the NFL season at home. I believe that is correct because the last time they haven't done it since 2019. Yeah. So home versus the Cowboys. All right. The following Sunday at Kansas City Chiefs, rematch of the Super Bowl. Then Sunday 21st, week 3, Rams, because of course you have to play the Rams in September. And then week 4 I'm sorry, not the Rams. Week 4 is at Tampa Bay Bucks, September 28th, because like I mentioned, of course you have to play the Tampa Bay Bucks in September,
and it'll be warm. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Then you have the Broncos, followed by at New York Giants, at Minnesota Vikings, and then home versus New York Giants. The Giants' first game is the Thursday, 8:15, October 9th. Then 1:00 p.m. Vikings. Then 1:00 p.m. before the Eagles enter the bye. So that is the first 3, 6, 8 games there for the Eagles. That includes 2 primetime games: the opener against Dallas, the 8:15 against the Giants on Thursday night, and the 4:25 game, not a primetime game, but a 4:25 game against the Chiefs before they get into the bye, which, Adam, I think the bye this time they'll find a little bit more favorable.
Yeah, in week 9. By the way, the idea you can get more than 5 primetime games, just so folks know. They've kind of junked that rule.
Right.
I'll see if I can get the language, but it's comical. So the league already said not only do they have 5 primetime games, and then we'll get to the 2 specialty games. The Friday game, Black Friday against the Bears at home, but the league said in week, let's see, 15, that one's at Washington on a Saturday. That's either 4:30 or 8 Eastern. So that would be 6 if it gets moved to 8. And if the game means something, it's a Fox game. They'll want that they'll want that on prime time. They won't care that it's Saturday. Fox will want that. That another way networks think. They want as many eyes on that game as possible, and that matters to them. But it is really weird when you look at the schedule. Yeah, it is definitely a difficult schedule. You look at how many teams made the playoffs. I get that's part of it, but you always have to. When I do my strength of schedule, it's very little to do with last season. Yes, I look at last season, but I look at what do the teams look like now? Coaching changes, draft, free agency, scheme changes, everything. You have to see how things have changed, and then you go from there.
Yep.
We talked about Dallas already, and then they get Mahomes. You look at the quarterbacks. They got Prescott, who was hurt last season quite a bit, as we know. He's back. The debut of George Pickens. Then it's not Sunday night. It's Sunday late afternoon. They are at Kansas City. They face Mahomes, and boy, did they take care of Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
Hey, the last time the Eagles played a Week 2 game in Kansas City at Arrowhead was 2017, and the Eagles won the Super Bowl that year. They lost that game. I do remember it. Doug Peterson elected to not run the ball one single time with LeGarrette Blount. And then, it was
the wind game. Remember, I think it was windy, and they were like, "Why are you throwing the ball so much?" The players went to Doug, the players committee, and they said, "Slow it down." And then, of course, they threw. Once they appeased the players, they started throwing the ball again. But anyway,
right. So that's the first 9 or 10 weeks because the bye is after that. It's a tough September. October lightens up a little bit. Obviously, you have Giants.
Vikings, I'd say by a lot. I'd say by a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. By a lot. Then you go into the bye, and then you come out week 10 with an extra little rest because you don't play until Monday night at the Packers, primetime, ESPN game. The following week 11, Lions, primetime, NBC. Following week after that is week 12 at Cowboys, 425 Fox. Week 13, Bears. That is the, the Black Friday game, 3 o'clock on Prime Video. Then at Chargers in week 14, primetime, 8:15 ESPN. Monday night game, and then 15, 16, 17, 18, Raiders, Commanders, Bills, Commanders, which, again, we can get into the games, but you just don't know because of flexing there. So what really jumps out to me, Adam, is there's 2 pockets of the schedule that I think are really difficult. And, we're not sitting here going do the win-loss thing. Who knows? But obviously September, you're facing Dallas when everybody's healthy. Dak Prescott's healthy, and Dak has been good against the Eagles. So you go Dallas, Kansas City, LA, Buccaneers. So you get your rival followed by 3 teams that made the playoffs last year, and then even Denver October 5th. I mean, they're a tough team. They made the playoffs. So that's a pretty tough start, but it could be an even tougher finish if these games really mean something when you have to go Commanders week 16, at Commanders, then at Buffalo week 17, then home.
That's tough. Yeah, the 15 through 17. So here are the tough pockets. 1 through 4, I totally agree with you. Now, here's the thing, though. They know Dallas very well, obviously. Dallas, though, as we told you earlier this week, they do have they have a couple major injury concerns. Trayvon Diggs, they don't know exactly when he'll be ready. They've already said he's not going to be ready for week 1. It's just a matter of that's a bad problem for them with their new defensive scheme with Matt Eberflus. They're very weak at corner. But they have George Pickens and a healthy Dak Prescott. That's a big deal. The Chiefs with a revamped offensive line, and of course Mahomes. Now, they have made it clear they're going to start throwing the ball deeper because they know they have to. The dink and dunk game, it may be there, but they know they have to stretch the field. But it is Mahomes. It's at Kansas City week 2. Week 3 and Matthew Stafford. Devontae Adams. See, this is what I love about when we look at the changes that they've had. No more Cooper Kupp. They know him very well. But now it's Devontae Adams, so that'll be his 3rd game as a Ram. So that's going to be interesting. They know Devontae. They've faced him before. It's not like he's new to them, but he's now with Matthew Stafford, which is fascinating. And then the Bucs and Baker Mayfield. Now, I know the Eagles have not done great. Now, they had the one really good game where they won. they hammered them a couple years ago in the regular season. Then you know what unfortunately happened in the playoffs, which was a disaster. And I remember were you at that Matt Bryant game that when he kicked that winning field goal, 60?
I was there. Yes, yeah. I was. There was a lot going on in that game.
What's that?
It was like 110 degrees on the field.
Yeah. So then the second group, look, Denver could be. See this thing. If you look at Denver, this is why you have to have context. You look at Denver last year. There's a great story that with Bo Nix as a rookie quarterback and Trump Payton, they were able to make the playoffs. Look at their quality of wins. Look at their schedule last year. I'm not saying they don't have a chance to make the playoffs, but they're well coached defensively. It's just one of these things where they caught the league by surprise. We'll see if they're like the Giants in 2023, not 22, in Brian Daboll's first year. Remember, the Giants had a huge fall off after that, coming out of nowhere to make the playoffs and win a playoff game. And then you got J.J. McCarthy, right? This is his first year as a starter. He only played one preseason game last year and tore his meniscus. And then to end it, you got the Giants heading into the bye at week 8. They're loaded on offense at the skill position. They're really like they could spread you out. And this is where you wonder, and we're going to learn this very early. In fact, Andrew and I, and hopefully you'll I'm sure you'll be there, training camp, all three of us.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see what the cornerback group looks like opposite Quinyon Mitchell. That concerns me when clubs go 11 personnel, even some 10. That's the stuff that would worry me because we just don't know what it's going to look like yet. We got to see. But the clubs that could spread you out with the Eagles issue opposite Quinyon Mitchell. Now, right on paper, it's an issue. We'll have to see how they perform. But going in, we know about Ringo being beat out by Rodgers last year, and Jory Jackson, the Giants moved on from him. So that to me is something that we got to be real with. That now again, they do play them twice, and again the quirkiness of the schedule. They play him in weeks 6 and 8, and then they have the bye. So I'm sorry, you're going to learn in week 6 whether Brian Daboll could get it done with his very fast and explosive receiver group against the Eagles secondary.
Don't you find it? I mean, I find it sort of, listen, and I don't criticize schedule makers because it just is what it is, but very odd. And I can't remember another time like this where the Eagles are going to play a division opponent twice in a 3-game span, 2 different times during the season. They're going to play the Giants in a 17-day span, because you just mentioned the Thursday night game in week 6, and then the week 8 game, October 26th. And then later in the year, as we just talked about before, Commanders, Bills, Commander. You're playing 2 division rivals in 3 weeks twice. That's weird to me, and I don't really like it like that.
Yeah. So I said weeks 5, 6, 7. It's 6 through 8, as you said.
Yeah.
And now I look at travel things. So one of the things the league did, which was smart, and again, this is years ago, they learned from some mistakes. So I look at when clubs have to travel, right? So let's look at some of the challenges, right? Friday, November 28th, the Black Friday game, the Eagles play at home. Okay, that's at 3:00. Then, okay, they're going to be well rested. They're at the Chargers the following Monday night. Now, one thing the league was smart about, if you had to travel out west, you're not going to be on the road the next week because it's just not fair because you're going to be a short week. Remember, they don't get home until late. They won't be home until late Tuesday morning. So at least that game against the Raiders is at home. Because I remember talking to Joe Banner, and this is a little different, but Joe said that he made sure that the league heard about it. They played on a Sunday, right? And they traveled on a short week to play out at the Seahawks on a Thursday.
Yes.
Which is insane. You can't have 3 time zones. You can't ask the team that's an East Coast team to travel out west on a short week, like on a Thursday. Come on. You can't do that. So they don't do that anymore.
Did they play the Seahawks on a Sunday and then a Thursday night game? Because I thought it was that they played the Seahawks on a Sunday, then they had to fly home, which takes in a sense the entire day and the next day itself, and then only had like 2 days really to really truly prepare for the Thursday night opponent. Maybe I couldn't remember that, but it's right along those lines where it just it just wasn't fair the way the travel was set.
Yeah, I thought it was Seattle, but it was a West Coast team. They played it. They played at home. The Eagles did on a Sunday, and they had to travel on a short week out west. It's just insane. That's just ridiculous. And Joe said he didn't want to say what he actually told us on one of our shows many years ago. He made sure Howard Katz knew about it. And it's funny because I would hear the clubs admit, like when they would admit publicly, hey, listen, we gave the league our recommendations, our wishes. They do the best that they can. They understand it, like what the club's up against, but you can only do so much because they put all the requests into the computer or computers, whatever the program they use, and they spit it out. And I'll ask that I definitely have to ask how they've tweaked the procedures over the years to make sure, because you can't make everybody happy, but you'd like them to not be yelling at you for screwing up the schedule. But that thing you pointed out is just insane, that the Eagles do not have 2 home games in a row, except for the preseason where they open up back-to-back against the AFC North teams. And by the way, that week 2 preseason week against the Browns, the Eagles will be hosting the Browns for at least one joint practice. May not, we don't know yet if it's going to be 2, but it's definitely 1. It's a Saturday, so that practice, if it's only 1, almost certainly would be on a Thursday.
Yeah. So for fans who like to travel, Adam, I think that there is one, to me, the obvious, if you're going to just go to one game this year, you go to Green Bay, November 10th, Monday night, if you can make it work on a Monday night and take the day off of work, because the rest of the travel schedule ain't great. Kansas City's nice. I wouldn't, Kansas City's great, but there's not much to do in Kansas City. Not that there's anything to do in Green Bay, but the whole aura and mystique of Lambeau Field, they have a fantastic Packers Hall of Fame built into the stadium. It should be a really good game. And to be honest with you, early November in Green Bay isn't bad. It's usually you don't get those -10, -15 games until late December and January when you see them in the playoffs, unlike Buffalo, which could be like that in November. So Green Bay, I would much rather do that than go to the Bills game in week 17 and have to sit in potentially 30 inches of snow with -30 wind chills. Man, that's going to be, the Eagles could get beat up in that game, and I don't mean lose. I just mean both teams, and Buffalo's a little more used to it, but that's a tough game to play at that time because you can just physically exert yourself in such cold temperatures, and you get injuries in that case.
Yeah. Also, the Washington game in Week 18, that's one of those in Week 18 nobody knows what time or day they're playing.
Right.
That's something they've done in recent years because I'll say this about the league is that they and the partners obviously have a big say in it. They want the best possible schedule to get the most eyes on games. So they're going to do all that they can. Now, I do find it fascinating that Washington for years have been ignored by the league because they've been so bad and not competitive.
Mm-hmm.
But to be against the Eagles in weeks 15 and 17, not Dallas, okay? That's a wow. Like that, wow. That talk about the respect. Look, I was like most people. I wanted the Eagles to play Washington week 1. So that would have a lot of juice. And we understand why Dallas, everybody understands. We don't need to explain that. But Washington could get themselves on the map here. In fact, I wonder what the NFL is going to say about that. Do they see them now, based on what happened last season coming out of nowhere, do they see them now as a national team? That's the term that they use for teams that the networks want. Fox, NBC, CBS. And now, of course, you have to add Netflix, Prime Video. It's funny how that works.
Well, they've got 5 primetime games scheduled this year. That
Already.
has to be their most. Yeah, already. They've got Packers. They got Bears on a Monday night. They've got the Chiefs in week 8 on another Monday night. And by the way, the Eagles don't have a Monday night game, do they? Oh, no, they have one. Do the Eagles have a Monday night? Okay, do they have a Sunday night game?
All right, so the primetime games, very quickly, week 1, everybody knows on Thursday at 8:20.
Right.
Thursday, October 9th at the Giants is 8:15. Monday at the Packers, but it's not at home.
Right.
At 8:15. So that is a Monday night game at the Packers.
Monday night game. I'm wondering about a Sunday. I think they have one Sunday night game. The next week,
Sunday night,
right?
Yeah, the next Sunday. against the NFC North. They stay in the North, but
Right.
that one's at home. Oh, against the Lions. Boy, that'll be a good one. I just find it interesting, though, when you look at their schedule. Okay, Cowboys, obviously, they know. Everybody knows that. Kansas City, they know them very well. They just beat them in the Super Bowl, okay? The Rams, they own the Rams. We'll leave the COVID year, the 20 when Tyler Higbee had 3 touchdowns. We'll leave that game alone. But since then, the Eagles have owned them. The Eagles and Bucks have had a big history. Also, a recent history, as you know. Denver, they don't have any history really of note. But then you got the Giants, who they know, and the Vikings. You'd have to go back. I mean, it's not obviously Justin Jefferson, but Packers they know very well. They beat them twice last season. Sirianni did, was it in 22 or 20? What is this? 22 they played them at Detroit, right? Was it 21 or 22?
It was his first game as head coach. It was the
no,
I'm sorry, first game of the second year as head coach.
Yeah,
so that would be
they played Atlanta.
They went to the Super Bowl. Yeah,
they played. Next first game was at Atlanta. Yeah, I remember that one. And then Chicago, the Caleb Williams game. See, this is I mentioned this earlier this week.
You're excited about this game. I can tell.
I am, but here's the thing: will the game mean anything? Like that's you can't blame the league for giving for putting the Bears on Prime Video. Now, if it means something, see, I see this thing with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson being feast or famine because they are so deep in pass targets, at tight end, at receiver, and Swift is a good back. Their interior, their offensive line is completely brand new, 3 new starters. But of course, Joe Tooney's one of them. You saw what the Eagles did to him. He's one of their new starting guards.
He won't be playing left tackle there, though. That's
yeah, exactly. I know. But man, isn't it crazy? Chiefs gave him away, man. The Chiefs gave him away. But if it's going well, then now we'll know well before that how the Eagles are they hanging in there opposite Quinyon Mitchell corner. Then you got what's coming with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly comes to Philly. Oh, that's right.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
I didn't until I just looked at it. That's 2 weeks after.
Oh my God,
they face
incredible.
Yeah, I know. All right, quick prediction. Does Chip get booed? Is it?
You're not seriously
asking
that question, are you? Of course.
Probably.
He's going to get one of the loudest cackle of boos that an offensive coordinator. He may get the loudest set of boos that an offensive coordinator has ever gotten.
Okay. Let me ask you, if there are 10 people cheering, you owe me $50.
Easiest money I ever. Wait. What if their last names are Kelly and they're opponent?
Right.
Mama Kelly.
And then, of course, Washington late. Man, I was hoping they'd get them earlier, but that does set up. I'm sure, know the way the NFL thinks. Like they think this is good. This could be for the division. How great would it be? Although I don't like them playing the sandwich at Washington, at Buffalo, then home against what? I just come on, spread that out a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't. So you don't like that, do you?
No, I would like it spread out too.
Yeah, I think it's cool, but I like it spread out a little bit more. But the cool thing is they face Daniels twice, Jordan Love, who they kind of own a little bit. Josh Allen in week 17. They do face Justin Herbert, who's talented, but he's been an underachiever. Geno Smith, which is funny because that was Chip Kelly's guy in 2013 until he wasn't. It's Stafford, of course. It's a daunting schedule. I would say on paper the 23 schedule was harder. Remember we talked about the gauntlet? It was crazy. Hard.
Yeah, because they were all in a row, right? It was like San Francisco and Kansas City, and then Buffalo.
Bills.
Yeah, and then Seattle. They wound up losing to. Yeah, that was a rough one.
Yeah, so
I think that if I had told you, like the night before the schedule came out, that the Eagles would have more Thursday night games and Monday night games than Sunday night games. Like the Sunday night game has now become what Monday night football used to be. The Sunday night game is the dessert, right? It is like after a great day of football, yes, you get an usually a very good game. The Eagles have won. That's sort of shocking.
I'm going to ask, you know what? I'd thought, I probably only get like they'll go around on these media calls. They go around and that's actually that's actually a great question.
Mm-hmm.
So they win the Super Bowl. They're one of the top 5 national teams.
Mm-hmm.
You gave them 5 primetime games. Why not is there anything to that? Why not a Sunday night game?
Right.
Yeah, it's a little. I usually have a decent answer for these. I have no idea why they didn't do that. Now that you pointed that out, there's always quirkiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
They play both Los Angeles teams. They're at the Chargers, then they host the Raiders. Just kind of weird, but they're not in the stadium, back to back though. But it is kind of odd that they play the two LA teams.
All right, couple more observations we're going to make, but first you got to hear a word from our great friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, well, the one thing we never do, Adam, is the win-loss thing. So I'm going to ask you this based on what you know, what we've talked about, scheme. Give me one team on the schedule that jumps out to you that might be more difficult than it might look right now, and then one team that you don't think is going to live up to the hype that it might be getting right now. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say about the second one, but go ahead. First, give me the team that's going to be surprisingly good or better than people are going to give them credit.
Okay. Let me do the latter.
I knew it. I know. Go ahead. I know what you're going to say.
You mean surprisingly good?
That was the first one. So a team that's going to be tougher for the Eagles than we think right now.
Oh, harder for the Eagles than we think.
Yes.
I'll probably want to be, because I'm struggling with that one because it's most of it's kind of obvious, but just because of what the Giants have at receiver.
Okay.
And look, who knows how he can make a trade for a corner before the season starts, as we know, if he's not satisfied with the corner position. With neighbors, Darius Slayton's back, who could run. They know him very well. Wandale Robinson's healthy, right? Theo Johnson, who can run. We know that out of Penn State. Now with Russell Wilson, who loves to throw the deep ball, Scatterbo's was a really good value for them, and we'll see by the time the Eagles start. Look, if the Giants are 2-4, 2-5, they might pull the plug on Russell Wilson, go to Jackson Dart anyway. But just from they've got their problem, as everybody knows, can they protect the quarterback? That's the thing. Can they finally do it? Well, if Andrew Thomas could actually play and not be hurt, that's been the problem. The guy's been hurt a lot in recent years.
Okay, that's a good one. All right.
Yeah,
so the Giants every once in a while used to be able to pick the Eagles off, like even 2 years ago when the Eagles had that collapse down the stretch, they lost to the Giants.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding a team that Chicago's the obvious one. We mentioned that earlier. Yeah. They're loaded, but I just Caleb Williams, he was a rookie, and they're another team that completely revamped their offensive line. And you got Ben Johnson in there. It could be special. Who knows? That one, I hope he's playing well, because I would love to see what Ben Johnson could do with him, because it's really been Goff who he redeveloped. Quite frankly, he had to be redeveloped. But this is why the guy got the job. Developed the quarterback. It's a big reason. Yep. So the Chargers overachieved last season. They were a great story, no question, under Harbaugh. I would say this: we love Marion Hampton. He was a guy you and I and Greg Cosell thought could be a really good player. He teams up with Najee Harris, but the Eagles are a good run defense. I don't worry about it. But I'll tell you what: Ladd McConkey, Trey Harris, Mike Williams is back for a swan song. Quentin Johnson, who had a nice season last year, Mekhi Becton. They could put points up. I know they want to run the ball first. That's a fascinating team, but other than that, there's just there. In Washington late, well, of course, we'll know well before that if they're as good as last year or better. I find it hard to believe that they could be as good or better. That was great. They were, of course, the Eagles boat raced them in the playoffs, but we know, particularly the second half. But I can't see the Raiders being a team. To answer your question, I know some people are going to say the Raiders. I know Pete Carroll, they'll be better than people expect because Pete's a good coach.
Yeah.
But man, come on.
I'll say that wasn't going to be my team, but you could make an argument for it only because you're at LA the week before. You got the Commanders. It's the little bit of that trap element where, and by the way, the Raiders flew east last year and came back from down 10 in the fourth quarter to beat the Ravens in week 2.
That was a crazy game.
Yeah, that was a very crazy game. That's not going to happen all the time, but I could see where maybe you get the trap element between the Chargers and Commanders. But I also was looking at the schedule, and listen, I know they made the playoffs last year, but I also think this team overachieved. The Broncos to me aren't like a scary team. They have a very good defense, but overall they don't scare me. But when you go through a gauntlet of Kansas City, LA Rams, and then the Buccaneers in that game at Raymond James Stadium where it's going to be 300 degrees, who knows what's going to happen in that gauntlet? Then you're coming home and you know the schedule lightens up with the Giants and the Vikings and Giants. That Broncos game sandwiched there, even though it's at the link, that might be a tough one just because of what they're going to be coming out of from Dallas and Kansas City to LA to Tampa.
Yeah, another thing I'll add, the Eagles are either in the Central Time Zone or East Coast, all but one game. The one they have a 3-hour time difference. They have West Coast time,
right,
late in the season at the Chargers. So that's good. I mean that's also good, by the way. Right. It's also good for the biometrics and all that stuff, biorhythms. But I don't look at it as daunting as 2 years ago. I really don't. Now, again, we don't know how good Dallas is going to be. They're going to have Prescott, unless he gets hurt in the offseason. They're going to have Prescott back. That's big. They got George Pickens, but they got some personnel issues, and they got a problem at left tackle. I'm not the delusional Cowboys fans. It is kind of comical. If you see these people on social media, they fight a lot amongst each other. But
you notice that, huh?
I like it. I find them amusing. It is kind of funny, but and then you just don't know about the Chiefs. Like they say they're gonna revamp their offense a little bit. Well, we don't know what that looks like yet.
Yeah,
and they're gonna have a new left tackle.
Will Rice be healthy by week 2? Yeah. You know, I mean that's a question. What are they going to do at left tackle and left guard? I mean, I think that's a big question.
Jalen Moore will be the left tackle, but he's never been a full-time starter. Like that's a problem.
Right. Where are they going to play their first-round pick? The kid from Ohio State, because he's really Josh Simmons. He's a tackle.
Right. He's coming off the injury.
Right. So we don't know if he'll be healthy as well. That's a great point.
Yeah.
So they'll have a lot of questions.
Yeah. So they have a lot of questions. The Rams.
By the way, that could have been a good answer for a team that team that gets a lot of hype, but really might not be that great when the Eagles face them. I mean, that's a good time for the Eagles to have to face the Chiefs. We've
said this over the years with teams that have a lot of changes or new coaches. I always felt it's good to play them early because they're trying to figure things out. It's sure a team could come out of nowhere in week 1 and wow, they're a lot better than we thought, but typically they fall off. I remember. I won't mention the former head coaches in the media. So he crushed the media because the Jaguars under Doug Marrone won the first game because everyone picked it was the year that the people picked the Jaguars to be like 3-13 or 3-14 rather. And then they sucked. They only wound up winning a couple games in the first one. They won the first one. Mm-hmm. Week 1 is so odd. Anything could happen. Of course, it's a shorter week on September 4th at home against the Cowboys on that Thursday night. So we'll see what happens. But it is weird to close this. How the hell did the Eagles not get a Sunday night game? Now, by the way,
they got one. They got one. So the Detroit game is the Sunday night, but they got
only one. It is. Yeah. Okay. So you're saying only one. You're only
right. Which is crazy. I would have thought they would have 3 at least.
A lot. Yeah. That is weird. I like, but that's on my point. I want to know how they choose. Okay, so the Eagles are a marquee team. You want them to be on primetime at least 5 times. But how they pick the days, or it's just the way that the computer, like, do they put anything special, any terms in? I'm just curious about that stuff.
Yeah, and by the same token, I'm sort of surprised that they have, 6 1 o'clock games. I thought they were going to have no 1 o'clock games. They have 3, 4, 5 in the first 9 before the bye week, and then that Raiders one could change, but as of now, that's scheduled to be a 1 o'clock game. So that's 6 1 o'clock games, which is a third of the schedule. I don't think they played 6 1 o'clock games last year. We pray for 1 o'clock games, and we weren't getting that lucky.
Oh well, sometimes, yeah. But if you remember, a bunch of them were not flexed.
Right.
remember last year we were like, oh, this is great. We're actually going to be. We were done early. There were some. They fooled us last year when we thought for sure someone would be flexed. But yeah, the flex scheduling. They've adjusted the rules in recent years, so it's all what's going to get the most eyeballs. So whether it's streaming or on linear TV.
100%.
So we'll see what happens, but yeah, it's a fun schedule. A lot of clubs other than the divisional games that the Eagles know. A lot of quarterbacks. A lot could happen. It is interesting when you look at their schedule, and you could, other than Russell Wilson, you could sit and look. We're talking about bad quarterbacks. They're not playing any quarterbacks. You go, wow, this guy can't play. Russell Wilson closed terribly with Pittsburgh. He was on a roll for a while, and JJ McCarthy, who the hell knows? Because he never played in a game last year. He only played one preseason game, so that's a question.
All right, a lot of question marks, a lot of excitement, though, as you just hit it on the head. And I feel like the Eagles aren't the only one, but this is a tough schedule filled with a lot of good teams and a lot of good quarterbacks. So it'll be a very exciting year for the Philadelphia Eagles. That is their 2025 schedule. That's also going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation.